Welcome to It's Your Move, a weekly podcast where we talk about the ever-changing world of work,
finding satisfaction in what you do,
and laughing through it all as you figure it out. Because wherever you are, it's your move. Happy Sunday, Mom.
Happy Sunday.
Yay.
Isn't it so beautiful?
This is
on
awesome.
our beach here at Paso Grill.
My God.
This is the life.
This is
I
what it's all
definitely
for.
am embracing it. I come here all the time, and Sunday mornings is always my favorite time to be here because it's so peaceful and out in nature.
Yeah.
And I just love it here.
I do too. So for those of you listening or watching, we're recording this on Sunday morning at Paso Grill Beach in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where my mom and I here both live. We chose Sunday kind of intentionally. Do you want to talk to everybody about Beach Church?
Oh, right. So Beach Church, how that started was Sunday mornings, I would go to church. I was raised Catholic, and we had a routine of going to church every Sunday. And off and on after COVID, I would try to get that back again, but I was having trouble with that whole routine. So I started walking on the beach as just a Sunday morning kind of reflection, and then it became more of my church. So I called it Beach Church just to kind of be funny about it.
Yeah.
So this is where I come on Sunday mornings and I try to be peaceful and walk and look at the water, be grateful, kind of do the things that I would do at church. During church, I would kind of set up my week, just think about like where I've been, what's the week ahead, just kind of thinking about that kind of stuff. So that's how I created this routine of coming to the beach on Sunday mornings.
And really, I feel like so connected to the universe and everything when I'm at the beach. I think a lot of people feel it when they're going on hikes or in the mountains or something. But when I'm at the beach, I just feel like the most at peace. You know, the world is so big and I'm right here and I'm so lucky that I can be a part of all of this.
Right. Even getting here from Cleveland, this was always our happy place when we would come here on vacation. That's how we grew to really love this. And we would do the beach, you know, in Cleveland too, because we lived on Lake Erie. So we're definitely water people and have evolved into now living here and enjoying it as much as we can.
And I also feel like, you know, kind of that Cleveland connection. So backstory, we're from Cleveland and I've been living in Florida now almost 8 years. You guys have been down here how long?
Same thing.
8 years?
Well, no, you were here a couple years before.
Yeah, I was here in 2018.
So, it'll be 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, you were here a couple years before us.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was funny, you know, I feel like a lot of families are kind of doing the same thing. You know, one of their kids will move somewhere kind of ideal or we're used to vacation and the kids will go, the parents will follow or vice versa.
Yeah. And you see it a lot at Disney. I mean, that was pretty specific to you got that job at Disney.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, you know, you go for the college program.
Yeah.
But then when you were going to be staying, that's when I started asking the questions of like, well, what am I doing in Cleveland?
Right.
You know, is this where I want to be?
Yeah. And as we get into Disney and kind of career talk, I think let's get into why we're doing this podcast.
Okay.
So do you want to just say kind of let's each kind of give our perspective on what this podcast is going to be. You go first.
Okay. I see this podcast as a conversation between a parent and a child, helping us guide each other down the road of whatever these next chapters are, looking back to some extent on what we've done to this point together, and then thinking about what kinds of things could we be doing going forward, and then how can we help other people at different stages build the same kind of structure and have that same kind of support. So I'm hoping that we can help other people through this conversation.
I love it. I think very similarly. I also think that the world of work is just changing so much. Like, I think that like my generation was kind of promised this one way of work. We kind of followed your lead. We followed our parents. We followed our teachers, everything. And that hasn't necessarily worked out for a lot of people. I think that, you know, I meet people every single day that have degrees and things that they're not using, that have followed different career paths, that they have passions, but they can't figure out how to apply them. And the world of work is just changing every single day. And I think that, you know, for young people especially, I think that really kind of what I want this focus to be is that you're not alone. I think that it's really easy for young people, like especially on social media and stuff, and we'll get into all of this, but it's easy to see people posting and being like, oh my God, they're living their dream and they have their dream job, they have their dream life, their dream house, everything. When a lot of the time you're really floundering or they have no idea what they're doing. They don't know where they're going. And that's okay. I think that really creating that community around people who are confused, it makes people feel less lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like a support group, really, you know, of people
Uh-huh.
that are feeling lost. And so I think that's really kind of the intention of this is that I've, gone to you for guidance my entire career. And you can only guide me so much. And now everything is so much different than when you were coming up,
And that's
you
such an
know.
important part to add that I didn't even mention
Yeah.
is how much of my life I was working and not with you guys.
Yeah.
So these things that I have learned along the way were about how do I find that place where I can guide you, but I'm not always going to be there. So your point on work is such a good one because that's, I think, too, what comes into this is like, because I've lived in that corporate world and worked through all of that, I can see things that you have yet to see on career choices and what work looks like. And those are the challenges that you're working with your students and your peers. I think you're exactly right. Helping people with those choices is the work that you're doing now and the
Yeah,
work that we can continue to do together.
totally. And I think that the support is kind of few and far between right now. And so I think really that's what we're here to do is create a fun atmosphere that people can talk about their paths, their choices, and feeling strong on the choices that you're making in your life and in your career and feeling less alone.
Yeah.
Well, before again we get into our main topic for the day, I think maybe let's just give a little career overview. Can you just talk
Okay.
a little bit about what you went to college for, your career, and then where you're at now?
Okay. Yeah, so I had a very choppy college experience. I was a first generation college student, so I didn't
Mhm.
have anybody really to show me the way. And the only thing that was ever going to be acceptable in my family was to be a doctor. So I started in pre med, and I won't even get into what all happened from there. But lots of
Mhm.
changes later. I still managed to graduate in 4 years as a business major and a
Nice.
major in marketing and still had no idea what exactly I was going to do with that. So I just started interviewing for jobs because there was no choice but to get a job in
Mhm.
1988. I got a job at a bank and in a training program.
Nice.
So that was really the big foundation. And the things that I look back on when you and I are talking is that career experience. I was there for 15 years. So I really went through it all while I
Mhm.
was there. And then over the years, I've been a banker, also a lot of working with businesses. So I've seen lots of other people and their careers, and I've just had so much experience in this. And then I started doing consulting that was around, how do you fit the right people in the right jobs? Because I saw that as the biggest challenge as
Mhm.
in my work life, but then also in companies that they don't get that right. So I'm hopeful that with the work that I'm doing, I'm helping companies bring along the next people better than the guidance that I got as I came through.
And just going back to your college experience and everything, did you feel a lot of pressure from your family about making money?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was the oldest of four, and my parents started their own business when I was in eighth grade. Growing up in that kind of household with like money and work being just part of our everyday conversation, the work part became really, really important to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I remember you talking to me one time about how you had considered switching your major to psychology. Like that's really
I
what you were
did.
interested in.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can kind of see how psychology is applying to your career now as a consultant
Right.
because you're trying to get the right people in the right work. So kind of fostering that passion, but later in your career.
Well, and that's how I got myself through picking a major and executing it
Mhm.
was I decided that marketing really was kind of psychology. And
Yeah.
so, but that's basically how I sold myself in my head of like, okay, I'm not going to be pre-med, but I can still help people in other ways and I can use my psychology background in business. So,
Right.
yeah.
Interesting. And kind of conversely from you, which I think is a fun perspective for us to switch to, is that I went with my passion.
Right.
I followed what I was really, really interested in, and I was a psychology major.
So, right. And
And
so I wouldn't allow myself to say, what are you going to do with a psychology major? Which is what happened to me. Like I could
Mhm.
never get a job. Well, I could have been a therapist. I could have been a psychologist, but it was like, no, that didn't tie to a job. And you still hear it. I mean, and it still is. I'm not sure if it's a good major or not, but
Yeah.
I certainly wasn't going to dissuade you from that.
Yeah, I think that choosing my passion, even back then, I remember thinking, what am I even going to do with
Well,
this
yeah. I
major?
mean,
You
I think
know?
maybe tell the story of how you did get to your psychology major.
Yeah. So my senior year of high school, I was very, very lucky because you were very vocal about making a strong college choice and not just like going to the best college, like making the right choice for me. I remember you helped my brother, Mick. You told him if you don't know what you're going to major in, and Mick was, I think at the time that he was going to college, I don't think he was really ready for a 4-year school experience.
Right.
And so he did community college for a couple of years, and you were such a big proponent of that about saving money. Luckily, you were a banker, so I think that always set a good foundation for us of like, okay, let's be smart with our money and not just make the choice because other people are making that. So I went to community college my freshman year and kind of followed in Mick's footsteps, followed in yours. When I went to community college, I think that was the best decision ever because I remember like seeing everybody graduate senior year, and they all had such like a clear cut vision of what they wanted to do or like what they were majoring in. I remember just like looking around, being like, "What are you guys talking about? Like, what does a lawyer even do? What is an architect? What is an engineer? And not even like what is the job description? Like, what is the literally wake up in the morning? What do you do that day?"
Mm-hmm.
So I went to community college my freshman year, undecided major. And then my senior year of high school, I had taken physics. So I was like, maybe I can be an engineer because I liked physics. And the only thing I knew about physics and engineering was that they were connected. So I was like, okay, I am going to take a class called Intro to Engineering, which is basically all about what is an engineer, what are the different fields in engineering. And I was like, I don't know about this. And then I shadowed an engineering facility, found out I don't want to do this, and switched my major to psychology. So then when I went into a 4-year school, I went to school for psychology. And then I finished a year early. So I did 2 years at Cleveland State University, go Vikings. And then I graduated and moved to Florida. And that was really kind of like the beginning of my career. And I'm still pretty early in my career.
Oh, cool.
He's parachuting into our interview. What do you do for work? So Angelina had just asked why it was so important that I learned that early. Oh, Angelina's my girlfriend who is behind the camera right now. Sometimes she'll be asking questions. So yeah, so when I figured that out that I didn't want to do engineering, like, people always say it's every no is closer to a yes, but I think that like, especially early on in my college career, it was like so important that I figured out a direction of where I was going with my career. I work in higher education currently. When I talk to students, I ask them about what kind of job do you want to have? What kind of career do you want to have? So many of them have no idea. They know what major they want to major in, but they have no idea what kind of career they want to have. And I think that the idea of college has kind of gotten lost on a lot of people because it's like, okay, well, you go to school to get a job. You know what I mean? You set yourself up for a career. That being said, if you don't know what you want your career to be, is going to college necessarily the right thing? So, and then when I was done with school, I moved to Florida, did the Disney College program. For those who know what that is back home, I worked
Which
at
was
Disney World.
always something that you
It was
wanted
my
to do.
Yeah, it was
And
my
you actually
dream.
didn't get in the
The
first
first
time
time.
you applied.
Yeah, I applied to it my freshman year of college, didn't get in, and then waited for a while. And then when I was graduating college, my mom and I went to Disney that January. And I remember like being on the bus, leaving the Contemporary at Disney, being like, should I just try one more time? Like I had already forgotten about it. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, should I just try it one more time? So anyway, I did and got in, had an awesome time, and then ended up working for Disney for 7 years. So I just left in July of last year. I had an awesome career there. Of course, we'll get into that as we go throughout all of this. And I made the decision to leave. Like this time last year, I was really starting to look at other jobs and move outside the company. I got my master's while working for Disney through Disney Aspire, which is when they pay for it, which was great, in educational psychology. And now I work in higher education. I did the Disney Inspire program. They offered undergraduate degrees, so associate's degrees and bachelor's degrees. Angelina also did Aspire through the University of Florida. They offer different degrees, and at the time that I was going, they offered a limited amount of master's degrees. And I got in right under the wire because they don't offer master's degrees anymore. They only offered them for like 4 years, and I just happened to do my master's in 2 of those 4 years. And I would 100% recommend it for anybody that's looking to get their undergraduate degree of any kind. I think that that's like, I mean, finding somebody to pay for it, I'll get into my feelings about student loans and everything. So yeah, I would recommend doing Disney Inspire to anybody. It was awesome. I had an awesome career at Disney. I loved that, but decided that I needed to transition careers. And I was really kind of looking to you for guidance in that time. I remember I was really confused, and I was feeling like, oh my God, my best friends all have their careers figured out. They all have these great lives, these homes, these kids, everything. But then I was like, I don't really know what I want mine to look like. Disney had always been such a big part of our lives. It had been my dream to work there since I was a little kid. And everybody who knew me knew that I wanted to work for Disney. So when I did it, I was so proud, and my family was so proud. Everybody was so excited for me. And then when I hit this moment in my career at Disney that I was like, this is not what I want to do long term, I remember having this kind of like crisis of career. Like I had built my entire life. My family had followed me to Florida. I had built everything on this kind of idea that I was going to be working at Disney. We came to the parks all the time.
It was part of my identity when you went.
Yeah.
And every move you made, that change was part of my change. And what did I want to do? And,
right.
Being able to come and spend time with you, and
right.
all of that, it changed all of our lives.
Yeah. And I think that was such a hard crossroads I was hitting of like, okay, everything is kind of fine right now, but I'm not happy. But everybody else seems to be pretty happy. So do I want to stand up and rock the boat? Or is it okay to take this change and just have everybody deal, which is what I ended up doing. And I think it was the best decision I could have made, because now it allows me to come and do stuff like this with you.
Exactly.
So, and I do feel like I really am living like my dream life right now.
Right.
So,
and then part of my dream was that I would be with you and get to work together. And so we started to combine our dreams over the years and keep sharing ideas about what we were each individually going for, but then how we could potentially help each other.
I was really inspired by you when we were younger, because you started your own business a few years ago called the Performance Guides.
Do you want to talk
about it's just a few. But so there was this time that I remember you quitting your job, and I remember us all being very like we were in high school, and I remember being like, what is she doing? But that's really kind of what shaped my career goals. So tell us about the Performance Guides blog.
Yeah. So I wanted to get into consulting earlier than most people would do in their career for whatever reason. I just always had this idea. Part of it was that I worked with a consultant who worked with me personally, and then also with my family, using Myers-Briggs and doing coaching. And so once I met him, I was like, that's the kind of work that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I would work with him on the side and do some workshops and things like that. But I always was crazy about this whole topic of how you're wired and work and how this all fits together. Mm-hmm. So the year that my mom died, who was an entrepreneur, and she left me with a little bit of money, it gave me the courage to try it. That I thought in that year, and I'm sure part of this was the grieving of my mom dying. She died in April, and then I think I quit in August. But also, I always quit with maybe I can go back. So that's what I did. So I worked on it for 5 months and realized like it was just going to take some time to really get that business built. And as you said, I had kids and a lot of infrastructure. So I went back to banking in January of that year.
And I also think like at the time that you started the Performance Guides, those things weren't like super widely talked about. I think that like they were a little bit, but like everybody was just kind of like following the status quo. They weren't really thinking about these things, like businesses especially. They weren't thinking about like, do I have the right people in the right jobs? Or, maybe small businesses were, but like especially, I think it kind of relates to what we're trying to do now. I think that was kind of the start of, why we're even here today was because we are passionate about making sure that people are making strong choices, that people are in the right work for them, that they are having fulfilling lives and careers, and that they aren't just defaulting on what they think they should be doing, and that companies aren't just settling for, yeah, I've got this guy who's been in this job for 40 years.
You
I'm
can't anymore
whatever.
because it's all changing so fast. You don't even know who's going to fit in a job. But that was definitely born out of my own pain. Once I
Yeah.
got to the bank, I knew I wasn't like a lot of the people that were there.
Yeah,
I could
right.
never quite figure out what was going on. And I shot myself in the foot a whole lot of
Yeah.
times before I found Myers-Briggs and was like,
Yeah.
okay, I kind of get it now.
Have you ever, I know we've talked about this before, but like, you know, it's like in the Barbie movie when all the Barbies are brainwashed, but
Yeah.
then a couple of them are like trying to wake up the other Barbies. That's how I felt so many times in my days at Disney. And like, I feel like you felt in banking and everything. It was like, we're trying to like wake everybody up and be like, what are we doing? And everybody's just like, okay, you know, like going about their business.
Right. I remember like I was talking too loud in the cubicles, you know, and somebody was like, "Hey, you're gonna really need to keep your voice down."
Right.
You know, but I was probably talking about Myers-Briggs because as soon as I learned whatever, as I started to see things as I went on in my career, you know, by 15 years or whatever, I definitely became I'm going to try to get other people to see it. But then I also realized that depending on how they were wired, they were not going to see it. You should just zip it.
And that's the thing is like, I think really kind of the big thing around this podcast too is like the people that are looking for help, are looking for change. That's who we're here for. We want to be that kind of support voice of like, you can make the change no matter what stage of life you're in. Or if you've been in a job for, 10, 15 years, or, whatever, you have the power to make these changes, but also not to dog the people who like their careers, that are in jobs that, there's no job that's bad, in my opinion. It's all just what you love to do. When I talk about Disney, if you love working for Disney, there's no harm in that. Right. There's nothing wrong with a career at Disney.
Right.
But that just wasn't right for me. And how do you break out of that? So that's really taking it back to why we're even here today, or why we're starting this podcast, is just to provide career tips from mother and daughter. Right. Somebody who's in her early career right now, trying to build it, trying to be strong in the choices that I'm making, and then somebody who's lived a career,
late career,
and has helped young people be strong in their
and not just choices. My kids. It was also something that I would do at work too, is try to help with people with this stuff. And so, yeah, many years of experience of trying to figure out, how do I help this person, that we're not all the same and that we're all here to bring our best selves to work, to life too, but definitely work. We spend, 80% of our times there. And when we talk about these great lives and our vision boards and all of those things, a lot of times we don't really talk about work, but work is the thing that's going to support the lifestyle and all the things.
So as we go through this podcast, really what we're going to talk about are career questions, or kind of just career topics, again, from two different perspectives, and how we think those things might change and the world of work is changing. So, this one was kind of more like an introduction about who we are, our backgrounds. But I think as we go forward, we'll look to other people for questions, people who watch this, ask career questions. My mom will provide her guidance. You'll provide your guidance from a parent's perspective. And I'll say, okay, from below, this is how I view it. From above, this is how you view it.
Right. So, and we'll bring in people to talk about their careers.
Yeah.
And that will be fun too, because then we'll both have different questions, and depending on the life stage and how they're wired. So we can work that all in too with other people. So it's exciting.
I know. I can't wait. I think really that's kind of the synthesis of all of it, is that the more that we can educate ourselves on the types of careers out there, the more that we can talk with other people and get their different perspectives on their careers and stuff like that, the better off people that are young and confused, or old and confused and don't know what to do, the better they'll feel and the more confident they'll feel in their career choices. Okay. Angelina has a question, please. Okay.
Ready?
Oh my God. Okay.
Mrs. Foley, you're going to go. Okay.
We're both like, I think she picked that the last time.
So, see, this is the psychological coming in. We can read each other's minds.
We do have a little telepathy.
Yeah,
we
we do.
can't help it. See, we
Yeah.
can't even like play that.
I
game.
know, seriously.
We think too much alike.
It's just not fair. You're all jealous.
Okay. The audience would like to know if there was a time where you guys kind of shifted, where Liddy was guiding you, or you felt like maybe intentionally or not intentionally, she has guided you through a situation.
Has there been a time that you think that, you've always guided me, but has there been a time that there's been a shift that you felt like I've guided you?
Definitely. I mean, as you've been on your career journey, it's caused me to reflect on mine, and your expectations of work not being terrible is huge. And it's, that's permeated all of the choices that I've made. That is like, okay, how do I find that balance? And of course, the balance always comes down to, how do I find something that leaves me with enough energy to then be able to spend time with you and Nick? But your questions that you would ask me about it would always lead me to, your perspective that work can be better. And if you are doing the right kind of work, that your work can be better. So I would say that's kind of general, but more just this feedback along the way. You've been very as much a guide to me as I think I've been to you, because we share these things. And then with your perspective, which is fresh, then I change my perspective.
Right. Kind of that symbiotic learning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Liddy, what's a piece of advice from your mom that you ignored, but you later realized she was right about?
Okay, piece of advice that I ignored from my mom, but then later realized
you're likely to ignore advice.
I was gonna say I pretty much, if my mom tells me that I should do something, I'm like, yeah, I probably should. I know that maybe I should question it a little bit more. But a piece of advice that I ignored that I wish I would have followed. Okay, this is not necessarily super career related, but my mom was always very passionate about our finances when we were growing up.
Don't do what I did.
Was kind of the idea there was to make it so that we were set up very well for success financially, and we weren't digging ourselves into debt, like burying ourselves in a hole before we could even get out of it. I think in a lot of ways I followed her guidance on that. Like, went to community college. I only went to a 4-year school for 2 years. I saved some money, all that stuff. But the one that I really, really wish I would have followed more was my credit cards. I don't have a ton of credit card debt, but I had this panic moment. I can remember literally the exact day. My friends and I were looking for an apartment in Florida. This was after I had moved out of the college program housing. And I remember we had gone to tour an apartment, and the person there asked me what my credit score was. And I was like 22, and I was like, I don't have a credit score. Like, I don't know what my credit score is. Well, of course I did have a credit score. It's like you have a credit score if you have any kind of debt, So I had my student loans at the time. Like, I had a credit score, but I just couldn't figure out, like, in my mind, you had to have a credit card really to have the credit score. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to open this credit card, and that's what's going to give me my good credit score, and I'll just continue to pay it off. But then when I was that age, I didn't really understand the repercussions of putting things on a credit. Like, I knew my mom's advice of, like, don't bang up a credit card. But, I think that, like, if I had really, like, heeded the wisdom, I wish I would have just never opened a credit card.
Well,
Total
it's so good in
emergencies.
theory. That's why this is an interesting conversation, because it's like, yes, in theory. But also, when I was telling you, it was like, the do as I say, not as I do. At the end of the day, that was probably... Yeah, I do remember that too. And being like, oh yeah, I mean, like, can you really get through life without credit? Right. Which, I
mean, that's the thing is, like, you just need to be conscious of your credit
and that's
cards.
a whole other, we could make a whole other
Oh my God. And we will be making a whole other podcast about that.
Like, all of these things, I'm like, we could go this direction, this direction, this direction. That's why I'm like, okay, we gotta, like, try to stay on a track.
So, yeah, I mean, I really think that I followed your guidance as much as I could, but I think then there came a day, like getting a credit card. I think there came a day that I had to just be like, okay, I've got to interpret this however I want, or however I think is right. And it's led me down some, not, I don't want to say bad paths, but I think it was a good learning opportunity for me to not always be like following everything to a T. So speaking of that, did you bring something kind of related to that with you today?
Yes, I did. We talk about this pretty regularly in our family. And this is a poem / prayer. I don't know what you would call it exactly, that I received from the assistant principal at Mix High School. And when you're talking to the assistant principal, it's usually like the disciplinarian in the school. And he had this hanging in his office, and I found it on the computer and printed it out, and it's called It's Your Move, Son. And I would use this as I was working with Nick. And then over time, as you got older and some of these concepts came up, I wrote in Sharpie /daughter. So It's Your Move, Son /daughter is the name of the poem. And we could just call it child.
Yeah, it's your move, child.
And the idea of it is that there's all these things that I can give you and teach you and show you. But at the end of the day, it's your move.
Yep.
And you've got to make the decision about what you're going to do. So just a couple of lines from it. I gave you life, but I cannot live it for you. I can teach you things, but I cannot make you learn. I can give you directions, but I cannot always be there to lead you. I can allow you freedom, but I cannot account for it. And it goes on, and you just can't make your children do anything.
Yeah.
And this was really a turning point for me when Nick was in high school, because up until a certain point, you are doing things for your kids. They aren't able to translate what you've taught them into the right behaviors. But then, over time, I realized, and this was a growing experience for me, that like, I can't do this for you guys. I've got to help you be able to do it for yourself. And that's what I learned by helping Nick. And then you 3 years behind, I used this same idea and always had this hanging around to remind us that it's your move. And a lot of times we'd even quote this.
We would always throw this around in our house because, like, Mick and I would go to do something, and my mom would always go, "It's your move, son / daughter." Like, anytime we were making any kind of big life decision, my mom would give us advice, and then we'd be like, "Okay, well, we're going to do this." And you go, "Well, you know what? It's your move, son / daughter." Was kind of the like, all right, well, I'm washing my hands of the situation.
Right.
I've given you all the advice that I can give you. Now you have to just make the choice.
Right. And because I did coaching, I always tried not to be like, here's what you should do. And really at the end of all of it comes down to, as you become adults, it does come down to, it's your move. I can't know what you want, any other person, but definitely started there.
I also feel like anytime you pulled out It's Your Move, son / daughter, it was am I going to have to learn from this moment kind of like time? Like, it was like, yeah, right. Yeah. It's Your Move, son / daughter was never like, yeah, go for it. It was like, well, try it and find out. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, open a credit card. It's like, well, it's your move, son / daughter. It's like, well, makes you kind of reevaluate why you're doing it. So, yay. Well, that is the synthesis behind why we're naming this podcast that, or maybe not, but we haven't really decided. But for the time being, the filler name is It's Your Move, son / daughter / child, because what we're going to be doing in this podcast is, again, telling things from two different perspectives of advice and how
everybody is somebody's son / daughter / child.
Right. Exactly,
I mean, I think I use this for myself.
Yeah,
what did I learn from my parents that I need to think about? How do I want to think about it going forward? And definitely when it came to entrepreneurship, because my parents were business owners, I think about my parents a lot.
Well, good first podcast, Mom.
Yeah, good job.
We're doing
it. We're doing it.
Like, you just, even if nobody's going to listen to it, if nobody's going to do it or see it, just the nature of us doing it allows other people to feel like they can do it too.
How many things have stopped us from doing it?
Right.
And here we did it one day.
Right.
Who knows what tomorrow will bring, but for today,
we did it.
We did it.
Yep. It's like working out or, cleaning your room or making your bed. I'm proud of us for doing it.
Me too.
Good job getting it done.
I enjoyed the conversation. It was
too.
Fun. And thank you to Angelina and
our
director and our question asker.
Yes. And thank you to St. Pete Beach for providing the beautiful weather and scenic
Right.
backdrop.
And remembering where we are and
And
being grateful
Yes, that we're living our dream
to
life.
whoever we're grateful to.
See you next Sunday. What are we going to call these? Son/daughters/children?
Yeah.
That's going to be our audience name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guides.
Guides.
Bye, guides.
Bye, guides.
In this next segment, we're going to interview Kathleen, a St. Pete resident and somebody we found on the beach who was willing to talk about their career. Let's have a listen.
Well, okay. Before we get into it, where are you from?
I am from the Indianapolis, Indiana area.
Fellow
I'm
Indiana
from
native.
St.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
My husband and I moved here in 2020, right before COVID,
Nice.
and we're residents now. So we just go back to Indiana in the summer.
Yeah, that's us too. I'm
Yeah.
from Cleveland and live
Oh.
down here now.
Nice.
So, and Angelina's the same from Fort Wayne. We live down here. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, did you like vacation down here a lot growing up or anything?
My family took us to the beaches every summer growing up. And I always thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing to live here?
Yeah, for real. Oh my God. Yeah, we came down to St. Pete and, we live in St. Pete now, but we came to St. Pete a lot growing up. And so I was like, we're going to have to relocate somewhere to probably be like the best place in the entire world. So,
Right.
do you live in the St. Pete area?
Yeah, right over here.
Oh,
Yes.
nice. Oh my
That's
God.
Yeah.
We just did the
Yeah.
we
Sorry,
did the
sorry.
Pass Girl home tour yesterday
Oh,
through the women's club.
yeah.
It was fabulous.
It was fabulous.
Did you see any of them?
I'm a member of the women's club, and I was
nice.
at one of the homes
Oh,
highlighting some of
nice.
the rooms.
We might have seen you. We were
Yes.
walking through and we were like, this is unbelievable. Because we live in like central St. Pete, but of course, Paso Girl is the dream.
It is the dream.
So
yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
a special place.
Oh, absolutely. So, Kathleen, tell us about your career and, really your journey.
Yeah, well, my career, honestly, when I was young in grade school, I always thought I want to be a dentist. And that's because I had a lot of dental problems growing up. I was at the dentist all the time, but I always thought, oh, they're so nice there. I could see myself being in this field.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got to high school, a teacher basically told me she didn't think I was smart enough to get into dental school.
Teachers.
Boo.
Yes,
And she's like, have you thought of something else? And I'm like, well, no, not really.
Yeah.
But I did find that a dental hygienist was a good job and a good career without having to go to dental school.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up going that route. And I was a
Nice.
dental hygienist for 20 years, right out of high school, literally. Like I graduated high school in May, and in June I was taking the anatomy and physiology classes
Nice.
because I was determined to get on with my career, get on with my life. And so I did that for 20 years while I was married and having kids. I got divorced, and my back and my neck and my hands were saying, I can't do this anymore. So then I just really, I think a calling from God, because I was forever trying to figure out, well, what does my next step look like? And I got into insurance. So I just recently retired as an independent insurance agent. And I loved it so much. And I just really enjoyed helping people. I specialize in Medicare. So helping someone 65 and over navigate a complex world was extremely fulfilling.
Yeah.
And most people don't wake up one day thinking, oh, I want to be an insurance agent.
Uh-huh.
But it was very rewarding, very fulfilling. I would still be doing it if my life wasn't going the way that it was. My
Yeah.
husband and I are just doing a lot more traveling now. I sold my book of business, but it was a very rewarding career.
Awesome.
But I have heard other people say that they have had teachers tell them not so positive things in life.
Yeah.
And it should just be, if a child is having thoughts about things,
Yeah.
it should just always just be fostered
100%.
and let them figure it out.
And I think that, like, especially when you're a kid, even if your kid says, I want to be a clown or I want to be a magician or, an astronaut, it's like fostering that. It's less about the job and more about the like mentality that you're kind of creating for them of I can do anything. You know what I mean? So that I think, I've heard so many stories about teachers just so early in life being like, you're not smart enough to do that. My mom was just talking about her organic chemistry. She took that class and her teacher was like, you'll never hack it as a doctor. And it changed her entire life. She had this mindset of being a doctor, and then it just completely veered her off at 19 years old.
I think it's like super important. We always talk about how we have a support system, right? And it's more than one person. We have such a big influence from our parents, but our educators are such a big influence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the importance of having support, like having
Yep.
kind of support, even if you might not think that they might be fit for it. It's like it's still an avenue of going towards your passion.
Right.
Figuring that out. Okay, so you switched from dental hygienist to insurance. How did you even stumble upon that? How did you stumble back over here?
Well, while I was a dental hygienist, I was talking to a number of people. I just started to reach out to people who were dental sales reps. I thought, okay, I know a lot of dental stuff. I can read x-rays. I can talk to dentists. This makes logical sense. I just get into sales, selling dental equipment or products, whatever. And they all told me the same thing. Well, you need a 4-year degree. Now, dental hygiene is just an associate's degree. And so really, technically, the program is a 2-year program. So they were like, well, okay, so you're telling me if I just had 2 more years of education, then I can just be selling dental products, but someone who has a 4-year degree with no dental experience might be better than me?
Right.
Like, it made no sense to me. So I thought, well, I guess a little extra education wouldn't hurt. So I actually, while working full time, raising 2 young kids, went back to school in the evenings to complete a marketing degree so that I could say that I had a 4-year degree now.
I mean, and that's the perfect degree. I think I always tell the students I work with, marketing is just such a good get it and then figure out what you're going to do with the degree. So especially if you have the direction already of sales, it's like, okay, well, my mom just is a marketing major, was a marketing major. So yep, same thing.
Yeah.
I love that. So Angelina and I, obviously, we're partners. We talk about having a family, our careers, and how that's going to fit everything. Do you think that being a dental hygienist, being in insurance, for people that are looking to have families or are looking for good work-life balance, do you think those are good careers?
I think dental hygiene is an excellent career because really the dentist is only open 8 to 5, really, most days, or it's 7 to 4, and they don't work weekends. And if they do, it might be 1 or 2 Saturdays a month.
Right.
And most dentists even close doors early on Fridays.
Yeah.
So it's a great work-life balance.
Yeah.
And the salary that I hear that they're making now is insane. I would say it's a great career that most people don't think about.
I looked up how much a dental hygienist makes the other day because a student was talking to me about how she wanted to be a dentist. Again, the intro classes for going to med school was like, I think I just want to be a dental hygienist. I want to stop here. And I looked up how much they make. They're making like almost 6 figures.
Yeah, some can make up to 6 figures.
Yeah.
It's a great career.
It's awesome. Especially for a 2-year degree for people who are like not wanting to commit to a 4-year school. It's awesome.
Yes.
Looking back, right, you got your 2-year degree and then you expanded to a 4-year degree. Do you wish that you would have knocked it all out at the beginning, or was it more of a, this is part of the journey and you discovered that later and you're okay that you waited to do it later?
Yes, because at that time, right out of high school, my vision was I just want to become a hygienist so that I can get on with my life. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, and I just thought the sooner I get on with my life and making my own money and being responsible for myself, that was more important than going to school longer at that point.
I think that like people have kind of switched the mindset now that it's more like, I'll do school first and then I'll figure out what I want to do, rather than I'll figure out what I want to do and then, maybe more school or something will come later. So do you think that that was the right path for you?
For me, yeah. And honestly, 6 of the girls that I went to dental hygiene school with, we had a little reunion maybe a year or 2 ago. The 6 girls that I was real close with through the program, and all of 6 of them are still dental hygienists.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like they're still all doing it. One girl is still working for the same dentist.
Wow. Are they all in Indiana?
Cincinnati. Yeah. So it's like, wow, I'm the only one who decided my back and my neck can't handle it.
Yeah,
And I was
right.
just kind of getting burned out at that point too. And as I tell my two children, you might find a different career later in life that interests you. It doesn't mean, because my son was struggling when right out of high school to figure out what he wanted to do. It's like, Mom, how do you know what you want to do? Well, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Read some things or
Right.
just get a general degree so that then maybe you can figure it out as you get a little older.
My mom and I wanted to do this because that was always my struggle. Like when I graduated high school, I was like, how does everybody seem to know what they're doing with their lives? How do you know that you're wired to be a nurse or that you are going to, I didn't even know what an engineer did. So it took a lot of kind of soul searching for me to really figure out what I was going to do. And now I'm 28. I'm still kind of figuring it out, you know, and I think that, you know, something we talk about a lot is that it's easy to look at other people and be like, they've got it all figured out. And I'm just kind of floundering. So that's really why we wanted to do this, was to say, you know, how can we learn from other people to help other people build their careers?
Next in your life, we've done a lot of super awesome, great things. And I think like we hit a mile point or a mile marker and then we reevaluate and then our priorities shift, right? At one point it was kids and just getting your family started. Now you're saying you travel more and you're living somewhere that you really love to live. Do you have a next goal or something that you're really excited to achieve in the future?
Well, now that we're residents of Florida and live here, there's so much to get involved with in this community. I'm enjoying going bird watching. I help out at the Tampa Bay watch program and we make oyster reef balls. My husband and I just bought e-bikes and we also scuba dive. So something more adventurous and just being out in nature, especially in this environment. There's just so much to do and so much to explore and do wonderful things for the environment here, which is probably my biggest passion right now.
I love people that when they get to a certain age that they're feeling comfortable in life, they're not just like, well, I'm just going to kind of sit around. It's like you're actually continuing to grow and learn. Our recent St. Pete residents, we just moved from Orlando. We worked for Disney and now we work obviously in higher education. So we just moved into our house in January. So we have also been looking to get into the community. That's why we go to all these house tours and stuff to see like what's actually happening in the community.
Yeah.
We were talking to the people from the women's club yesterday and we were like, how long do you have to be to join the women's club? Like, did you find it hard to rebuild your community after that? Or had you already built a strong community in your area that you really relied on? Because I think that's kind of the takeaway we're having right now is we moved away and how to make friends as adults and how to get involved in your community as adults. So do you have any recommendations or did you struggle with that at all?
I think making friends here in Florida is easier than in Indiana because think about the winter, we're locked in, so it's different. I've since being here, I'm taking pickleball classes, which I belong in as well, so that's a great way. And I think pickleball is not just for old people. I mean, there's so many young people playing pickleball nowadays. It's crazy.
Oh, we bought tennis rackets because we were like, maybe we could get involved in like a tennis club. We were just, her sister got us like pottery making classes for Christmas. So we're like, maybe we'll make some friends at pottery.
Okay, my only advice right off the bat to you two is you are going to have no problem making friends around here, okay? So let's just put that out there.
I appreciate that. I seriously was like, when we were talking to all the women in the women's club yesterday, I was like, I want these people to be our real life friends. So I kept telling them, I was like, keep an eye out for the applications. Or, you know, we don't even know the process, but we were just plugging ourselves. Yeah. So I know that we've already taken a lot of your time, but do you have any last minute advice for anybody like our age that's maybe having some career
Or
confusion?
even like
Or
anything you want to say.
any advice, wisdom?
Yeah, career confusion. Yeah, don't take criticism and hold on to that.
Okay.
Listen to your parents too, because sometimes your parents might give you some good ideas. Because that was the case with my son, right? So my son who struggled to figure out, how do I know this is so hard? And I introduced him to a neighbor of mine who's a pilot, and my pilot friend was saying, oh, I don't work this. I go to this place and have fun like all day.
Right.
And so now my son is actually studying to be a pilot.
That's awesome.
Just hard conversations to say, okay, what is it that you want and don't want? He didn't want a desk job. Mom, I don't want to be stuck behind a desk. I want to travel and see the world. Well, have you thought about becoming a pilot?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so now he's on his way and he
That's
loves it. And he
awesome.
didn't figure that out till like he was like 20.
One of my really good friends from high school, he had a full ride to Miami of Ohio for business. And you know what he got the scholarship for was being a golf caddy. I didn't even know there was a type of scholarship that you could get for that. But he got this full ride. You had to go to school for business. He gets this 4-year degree. He finishes it. He's like, I literally hate business. Like, I don't want to do this. He went back to school. Now he's a pilot, a commercial airline pilot. I love things like that, that his destiny had kind of laid out this plan for him. And then a couple years down the line, he was like, this isn't for me. The pictures that him and he married my friend from high school. So the pictures they're posting together all over the world because he can just buy them everywhere. It makes me so happy because I know that he's so happy and he didn't just default on his life. You know, he decided to take a chance and it all worked out.
Oh my
So
goodness. Yeah.
awesome.
He's not stuck behind a desk job that he just hates, plugging in the time from 8 to 5 because life is short.
Yes, totally.
Well, life is a journey and you have to choose how you want to live your journey, really. It's taking chances and sometimes things might not work out. And if you fall down and it doesn't work out, well, then, you know, there's other opportunities. Get back up and try something else.
Totally. I love it. That's awesome. Well, I seriously appreciate you doing this. So, and I love meeting people who live on Paso Girl because it's like someday I'm gonna be your neighbor.
Okay. So
Right. But when you see us next door, we'll bring over a thing of muffins. We'll be like, remember us?
okay, that's not great.
How are we gonna design our house?
And I'm like, remember that one room in that house?
Yeah. Oh my God.
With the shoes from the floor to the
Oh
ceiling.
my God. Well, thank you.
You are
again. It's so
welcome.
nice to meet you,
Nice
Kathleen.
meeting you.
Wow, what a great podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Join us next week. We're going to talk more about the ever-changing world of work because wherever you are, it's your move.